You're listening to Brave Girls with Tracy Imm, where we choose to empower you to be a better leader, mentor, and coach in the world. We'll share stories of people who have achieved great heights by overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, all while pursuing their passions. These courageous people will inspire you to have faith in yourself and take bold action. Right here with the host of Brave Girls, Tracy Imm.
Episode 15, Perfect Timing Does Not Exist, with Dr. Davina Detrik. On this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy Imm, you'll meet Dr. Davina Detrik from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you'll hear what she has to say about her journey from first-generation college graduate to entrepreneur transforming the dental industry. I love that Davina is super driven and passionate about what she's doing in the world today as a working mom. She talks about how she channeled her anger at her broken industry to come up with her innovative business and teaching approach that combines hip-hop, fashion, and progressive thinking. You'll want to check out her company, the Disruptive Dental Collective, on Instagram to learn more about what they have to offer. We talk about the transformations she's seen through the cosmetic dentistry services that her company and her clients are providing to survivors of human trafficking in 6 states across the United States. Davina gets super real when she shares what it's like to work side by side with her spouse and how a relationship coach has been critical to their success. Making an investment in a coach was an important decision that has paid off for both their business and their marriage. We also talk about Davina's TEDx talk and how perfect timing doesn't exist and why done is better than perfect. She shares how she and her husband downsized in order to pursue their shared passion to disrupt the dental industry. She shares why she loves to walk cemeteries when she needs to make big decisions and how it helps her put things in perspective. I think you'll love this episode with Dr. Davina, and I hope it inspires you to be brave and chase your dreams. So welcome to Brave Girls with Tracy Imm. Today we have the unique pleasure of talking to Davina Detrik from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I met Davina a couple years ago. We were students in a class with another mentor and coach, and we were studying the laws of the universe. And so I know that you definitely understand the importance of mindset and the philosophy of success. And so I just want to welcome you and just tell everybody a little bit of your backstory of kind of where you grew up, what you thought you were going to do, what you're doing now, those types of things.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. So I grew up in a super tiny town in rural New Mexico. We have a population of about 8,000 people. And I was an only child, so I was very happy and content being alone and entertaining myself. Which is also probably the place where I got a lot of time training my imagination. And I thought I was going to be a fashion merchandiser. That's what I had really kind of had my mind set on doing. And part of it is that I always loved fashion, but being in a rural town, my parents were like, that's not a real job. So you need to think of something different. So that was part of when I started getting practical, right, about what my future would look like. That was one part of it. And then the other part was there was a kid I went to high school with, and I was really into thrift store and vintage shopping. And I had went to a vintage store, and he was selling Barbie dolls with these costumes that he had created and designed, and they were so fabulous. And when I saw what he was doing, I was like, okay, we're clearly not on the same level. So maybe it is, maybe my parents are right, and maybe I should get more practical about what I need to do with the rest of my life. So they suggested that I go and talk to my dentist, family dentist, the only one in a town of 8,000, right? So to make my parents happy, I went and talked to him and his wife, and they offered me a summer job, and I needed one. So I started working there, and then I never left dentistry. And that was when I was 16. So I've, been in dentistry for 16 years now.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so then then you went to University of New Mexico and you got your degree in dental hygiene. Basically learned how to be a hygienist, right?
I did. And so the reason why I went to hygiene school before I went to dental school is because there was a lot of, am I shooting too big with wanting to be a dentist? Right? I'm not, I'm the first one in my family to go to college. It's just not something that you do when in the town that I was from, right? Like the normal path is that some people go to school, but you usually get a job that's a good job and you stay at it until retirement. And that's kind of the game plan. So part of my game plan was, let me go to hygiene school first and see if I can accomplish that before I even try for dental school.
And then you did. You did
And
just
then
that.
I did, but I had to titrate the goals up. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of internally really believing that you can do something, but externally thinking that you're cuckoo for wanting something that you haven't actually been able to see around you before.
Right. You didn't have that role model in your family or your community, or even an expectation that you're going to go for it. Yeah. So I think when I met I remember having this conversation with you and you're like, I have so much student debt. This is just killing me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you made like a lot of mind shift changes, a lot of just, I've got to pivot in a different direction. And so I'm curious, you took your knowledge and you said, I'm going to teach other people how to do specific things in dentistry that maybe are out of the box than the normal way somebody would get continuing ed, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to disrupt the marketplace and I'm going to really shatter the way that it's always been done.
Yeah.
Right? And so how is that going? I mean, I just watch from afar and I'm like, she's badass. She's kicking
Thank
butt.
you.
She's
Thank
using
you.
video. She's using, the tools of today, the way people like to learn, and really packaging things up. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what you said when I started really kind of diving into the mindset, right? So finishing dental school and starting my first job and really kind of hating it was the basis for that. So one of the things that I think is really interesting in either personal development or when you're starting off in your career is the information or the suggestion of find the thing that you're passionate about, right? Like that's how you have a happy life, is find the thing that you're passionate about. And for me, what I found is that the thing that people don't tell you before you get passionate is you have to get really pissed off about something. At least that's how it worked for me, right? So it's hard to find passion for something, for me personally, unless I was angry about something that I got so passionate that I wanted to change it, right? So for me, that looked like, is this really the way dentistry is done? Is this really acceptable in how we treat ourselves as healthcare providers? And is it acceptable on how we treat our patients, right? Like when you really start looking at the system, it's terribly broken from my perspective. And that leaves a lot of opportunity to start questioning, how is it done and how can it be done another way? And so the mindset work came in with, okay, this is something, again, like kind of what I did with dental school, right? This is something that I really want to do, and can it be done? And when you figure out that it can, and that the only rules are really kind of the ones that you make for yourself, then it opens this whole door for creativity, which is probably what you see in a lot of the video. Because it's like, well, why do we have to do it like everyone else is doing it? And, there are other things that I'm really interested in, right? Like fashion and cooking and music. Like I love hip hop, right? So how can you bring influences from industries that are not your own to influence an industry that really needs some sort of progressive thinking?
Right. You're just shaking it up. You're really shaking it up. So that's got to be really well received by some people, but then maybe other people are like, what is up with this?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the old school people are like, who are these people and where did they come from? But yet you've got the degrees, you've got the experience, you've got the subject matter expertise. That is like solid. Like it's not like you're just coming out of thin air. You've been professionally trained, you've been in the field, you know dentistry, you know dental hygiene. Like, you're just challenging the business model and the way to approach things. So I do see the creativity, and I do see that. And then I know you're in business with your spouse, correct?
Yeah, my husband and I are in business together, which, the creativity between the two of us, that's a lot of fun too, because it's like, okay, what can we make today?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I know there's the good and the bad with anything, right? And so, it's probably fun some days, and then other days it's like, wait, this isn't so fun, right? Being in business together.
Yeah. And in full transparency, we hired a relationship coach because our business was so built on our relationship that we don't really have the luxury of having a fight that lasts like 3 days, 5 days, 2 weeks, right? Like,
Right.
so like that can really derail your business, which then really, not only is your relationship derailed and your business derailed, but that was one of the things that we had consciously made a decision that the relationship has to be as tight as possible if we're going to fuel the business.
That's great. I think a lot of people don't make investments like that. They may see that as like extra, like when the cash flow comes in, but like you said, it was really foundational that, as you made this pivot from where you were to where you were going to go, and you decided you're going to go there together to get that help, right? And so many people don't make those investments, or don't see the value in getting the support that you need. So how has that been really helpful for you guys?
It was the, foundation of everything, the way I look at it for our relationship, which feeds the business, which feeds our parenting, right? Which feeds,
Right.
everything, how we interact with our families, our sex lives, everything to me is built on the relationship that we have with each other. So when we were having challenges with communication or even leadership, right? Both of us have a tendency to be alpha at times. So who's leading the business and when, and what does that look like? And when you have that dialed in, it makes it easier than spending your energy that you could be on sales conversations fighting with your partner. Right?
Right. 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 It's so true. It's so true. And then, there's another, I'm going to kind of go down a different rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
One thing I know that you did after I met you is you got yourself out on the stage and you spoke at TEDx in Albuquerque.
Uh-huh.
So what was that like to prepare for it? I did watch it. I thought it was phenomenal, but like, tell us a little bit about that experience and why you did it, and kind of what you got out of it.
So that experience was so amazing for so many reasons. And part of it was I have been obsessed with TED Talks for so long, right? So to actually have an opportunity to do one was just wild to me. And the other part was I didn't actually expect to get chosen when I sent in my application. And so part of that, I didn't have any attachment to it, because I didn't really think that it would happen. But I sent in my application because I'm like, well, like in the off chance that it does happen, let's see, right? And the subject I was talking about was how women in particular, we spend so much time and energy trying to be really good people. And sometimes that takes us off our path because we have a challenge asking for what we really want and really need because we're so obsessed with trying to do everything perfectly. Right. And so the interesting thing about that talk was I had to submit a video of myself giving a talk, and I wanted to be perfect, which is so interesting because it was what I was talking about in my talk. So I did a chemical peel like right before I was going to do my, send in my video, and melted half of my face off. Like my skin was showing, it was red, it was oozy, it was so disgusting.
Oh, no.
Okay. So, and I'm like, well, clearly I can't do it now. Like, look at me, I look like a troll, right? And I'm like, oh, this is the message that I'm getting. This is what I'm telling women to do, is that the perfect timing doesn't exist. It's only perfect when you say, I'm going for it. right?
Right.
So I sent in my video with my scaling oozy face, and I talked about it in reference to how my intention was to be really perfect and polished and all of these great things, and I'm not, and here I am anyway. And it was such an interesting like culmination of the things that I was talking about in not a way that I would have chosen, and it worked out really well.
That's a great story. I mean, perfect timing doesn't exist, right?
It really doesn't. No, it doesn't.
There's,
And
yeah,
yeah,
you just have to take that leap. I love that you're, telling people they need to ask for what they need, and to step away from the perfection. And it's like done is better than perfect, right?
yeah, absolutely. And when I gave that talk, I was I was 4 weeks before I had my daughter. So
Mm-hmm.
I was, super pregnant and all of those things. And it would not have been the time that I would have chosen if it was me getting to pick all of the perfect, things to come together. And because it wasn't perfect, it ended up being really amazing, right? Like one of the things I'm like, what if my water breaks when I go up there? Like that was a real thing that I was entertaining, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, all of that to say, I think that when we have ideas of what something needs to look like, we really still the beauty of a situation that's trying to unfold for us.
Right. So talk a little bit about being a mom, being a working mom, and how you view that with what you're trying to do now as an entrepreneur.
I love being a mother, but it's not the thing that I'm like meant to be, if that makes sense. It's not the thing that I obsess over
Mm-hmm.
about how good my performance is. And I'm saying that because in the beginning, there was some guilt over having to really come clean to myself, that I would rather read about business than parenting, or that I would rather go and work on a marketing plan than I would hang out with my kids, right? And so I had to get really honest with myself about, okay, that's what it is for me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think all of that to say the challenge in parenting has been admitting that for myself, and then setting up structures that will support both, right? Happy, healthy kids, and them getting all of their needs met, and then me also not feeling totally 100% responsible for meeting their needs.
Right, right, right. Well, and it's so important to take care of yourself first and fill yourself up first. And I think confronting the brutal facts of whatever the truth is in your case or whatever, that's kind of freeing in some ways. It's got to be that then okay, I just have to go down this path of having these systems and structure to support me so that it's the balance that's going to work for me and for them, because you want them to learn how to make their own decisions and be independent so that you can set them free when they're older, right? And they can learn some of that now, with you as support for them, and then whatever support you need so that you can be your fullest expression of yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's the piece, right? Where it's like, I can't tell you to be something that I'm not willing to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, really kind of chewing around that idea in my head was the first stepping stone to being able to say, look, like my goal isn't to be like, I know some amazing moms, right? Like everything, like the cookies are so decorated. They have all these amazing activities for their kids. Like, I'm not that person. And so getting out of feeling guilty about not being that person because I don't care about, really planning those kinds of things is
Mm-hmm.
really liberating.
It's got to be. Yeah, it's
It
got
is,
to be.
because I can give you something in some other way, but I can't give you that. At least what I have in my head as being like the perfect mother, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you're teaching your children that they need to be their authentic self as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust, and it's usually somebody who's authentic. You're not going to buy from somebody who's salesy, or, you kind of, your gut intuition tells you they're not really, that's not who they really are,
Mm.
And so I think that that's so important that by example, you're teaching them that.
Yeah. And I hope so, right? Like, so far, so good.
Right, right. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. So what's next for you guys? So you've got this Thrive Experience Masterclass that people can sign up for. And that's you take that on the road, or how does that really work?
So basically what it is education for dentists that comes with mentorship. So coming out of dental school, one of the things that was a challenge is that you go and you take these classes and maybe you sit in for a week or a weekend, and then you go back to your practice. And as we know with anything that we do, it's really hard to implement without somebody to kind of bounce this off of, right? And
Yes.
then you go back, and then it's another thing that you've invested in that sits on your shelf because you're not even really sure how to take the next step. So what we've done is design each continuing education class with mentorship so that somebody is actually walking you through the process. So it's not only the process of delivering a clinical result for your client, but it's the process of battling those mental demons, right? Am I good enough? Can I do this? How do I sell a treatment plan that is $40,000, right? A lot of the problem is mental, meaning they're just obstacles that prevent you from leveling up. And so we're really unique in that we deal with that piece too. When everybody wants to put a Band-Aid, like, okay, here's some scripts to sell. And exactly what you just said before, when there's not authenticity and you're selling from a script, you can't sit back and wonder why a client is not writing you a check and saying, yes, I'm so excited to work with you, and I know that you're the person to deliver a smile transformation for me. They're not doing it. They're running away,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Right.
And so it really transforms healthcare as well, because we're not just talking about the physical transformation of a beautiful smile, but if you can't connect to somebody and really experience what they're experiencing with their health and communicate that message, then you're not helping anyone, and not even yourself.
Right. Right. And I'm sure that the dentists that enroll in this, who get your mentorship, that follow your guide, your coaching, basically see financial results in their practice if they
Absolutely.
implement it coming from their heart, right? And applying that clinical knowledge, but also helping their patients and clients see that transformation that they're going to
Yeah.
get. And that, whatever dollar amount, I look at people who are ashamed of their teeth, and they have so much shame that they won't smile, and then the mental effect that has on them. And then when they make the investment and they actually get, I call it a smilectomy, they are like a different person.
Oh, it's so, yes, it's completely different. And I think so when we started doing that, we also started doing smile transformations with part of the income that comes in with that on survivors of sex trafficking. And so it's one thing to transform a smile, for somebody who's been wanting it for some amount of time or is going through a life transition. But the sex trafficking survivors really gave me a new understanding of what it does for your self-esteem, and even how they look at themselves. Their self-image transforms as well, and the worthiness that's attached with that. It's been really fascinating to see it on a completely different level, not just somebody who's like, oh, I really want something improved, right? But somebody that it really changes how they feel worthy or not to even interact with another human being.
Right, because they've experienced like the ultimate in trauma.
Ultimate in trauma. Yeah, absolutely. And it's been, with these women to not, it's not charity dentistry, right? Like, it is, we still deliver top tier dentistry as much as if somebody was carrying, a briefcase full of cash. Like, the experience, it was really important for us for the experience to be the exact same for those two people, so that they really get a new experience of worthiness, right? When you have this whole experience of being treated as a high ticket person and being delivered not a lower product, but the same product as we would deliver for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That really opened my eyes, because it's, if you drop something off at Goodwill, right? You're
Right.
like, okay, like whatever is left over in your house or whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But really working with these women and starting to see like, no, you don't want to give them something that's less than, because they already feel that way.
Right, right. And you're just giving them that premium luxury experience where they're probably already feeling like I'm not good enough for anything. And yet that's got to be just so transformational for them to from that perspective, that,
Yeah.
like you said, they're getting the service as if they did have briefcases full of cash, right, to pay for that. So now, did you get hooked up with another organization, or is this something in your local area, or is this, how is that kind of operationalized itself?
Yeah. So we had, I'll give you the shortened version of the story. So when we decided to quit our day-to-day dentist jobs, right, we had 2 cars and they were nice cars. And we were like, okay, if we're going to really do this, we need to downscale everything. So we traded in both of our vehicles for one Prius. Okay, so Galen and I go to the dealership, and our car dealer was ex-military, works at the dealership, but we didn't talk about the car for very long. He was talking about like this passion project that him and his wife do, where they help women that have been trafficked. And we're like, we want to do that. How do we get involved? And so we started off with him, and then he connected us with another local organization, and we've worked with that organization and have done smile transformations with them. And then we started telling our students that this is something that we're doing. And our students are, you know, in our continuing education program, all amazing dentists, and all, you know, you attract similar people, right?
Right.
They all wanted, a lot of them wanted to get involved as well. So now we have dentists in 6 different states that are also doing smile transformations for survivors of sex trafficking. So it's gotten bigger than we had initially thought. And that was not intentional, that we were going to like spread this thing, right? But it's so interesting when people find something that they're like, oh yeah, I want to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
They open up their time, offices, hearts, they put in extra work, and it's really fantastic to see.
I just got chills. It's like, it, you know, just the fact that you made a decision, you and your husband made a decision that you needed to downsize, and now you're impacting people in 6 different states who would have never had this service if it weren't for that decision that you made, right? And that choice that you made that said, okay, if we're going to be all in, we're going to quit, we're going to do this, we're going to take a leap of faith, you know, we're going to chase our dreams. And now you're helping other people in ways that you could have never imagined. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's really amazing. And to just, you know, see the impact that you're having by choosing to do things differently than maybe the traditional track of dentistry, and having a practice, growing multiple offices, multiple locations, like on and on and on and on, and saying it doesn't have to be that way. And, you know, we can give back to people through our skill set that are not going to have, you know, the bucket loads of cash, but we know how to do this, and it's going to transform their lives. I mean, that's really amazing. And you've made investments in your relationship by having a relationship coach. You know, you continue to study with some of the greatest teachers out there in the mindset world. So, I mean, that just speaks to your character and, you know, the impact that you're making. So I think that's great. I really do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. So my finale question for every guest is, what's the bravest thing you've ever done, and how does it inspire you today?
I think really quitting dentistry in the way that I was doing it was probably the bravest thing that I had ever done. I mean, there were lots of things that I thought were brave until maybe that one piece where I paused for a moment. I'm like, am I really going to try and burn down a degree that took me 8 years of my life and, you know, $250,000 later? Like, am I am I not going to do the traditional way of building this business? Like it seemed crazy, you know? And I think that was probably that pause where I'm like, okay, I'm either brave or completely ridiculous. Right. Right. And doing it with my husband too, where it's, 8 years of his life and, another 250,000. So we're talking $500,000 between the two of us. And we're like looking at each other like, are we serious? Are we quitting our jobs and building something that, hadn't been done in this industry? And we didn't have a track record of, it's not like we had several businesses before and we were really seasoned that way. So that's probably the thing that I'm like, wow, that, looking back on it, when you're in it, it doesn't actually feel that brave. I think you're just trying to survive. So the adrenaline of making it day by day, week by week, month by month really overrides like, wow, I'm such a courageous person, right?
Right. But looking back on it, don't you think it was a good decision?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was an amazing decision, but it was one that I, at the event that you and I had met at, I would keep asking like, should I do this? Should I do this? And after a couple of times of just like hearing, why are you still asking the same question? Clearly, that you need to go and do it, right? It was like,
right.
It's time to jump. I can't keep going to personal development things with the same question and getting the same answer that I have myself and not be willing to act on it. Like, how long am I willing to do that?
Right. Right. Because I think intuitively we know in our gut, like, it's go time. Like, stop asking the same question. You know the answer. You really do know the answer, right?
Right. And it's exactly what you said. Sometimes we just don't want to know the answer. We actually ask somebody else, hoping that they'll tell us a different answer than the one we know is true, right? Hoping their answer may be a path that looks easier or feels more comfortable.
Right. Right.
Can't you give me something else to do besides this?
Yes. Well, I think you had gotten to the point though where you were just like, this isn't it. What you were doing. You were like, this isn't it.
This isn't it. One of the things that I don't do as much now, and it, when I tell people it's kind of morbid, but I like when I'm dealing with something really big, I like to walk cemeteries. And it brings me a lot of peace thinking about whatever decision that I'm making. It's not really that big of a deal, right? Or that life is short. We don't know how much time we get. And am I willing to live with this decision and, be less than the fullest expression of myself or have less happiness that I know I could potentially have because I'm scared? And that really puts things into perspective for me. And so when you look at it like that, it's like, well, am I willing to spend my life doing things that I don't want to do and making other people unhappy around me because that's how I am. Like if I'm not happy, no one's happy kind of, So those are questions that I have to ask. And ultimately it's like, if I'm not happy and I'm not going after what I want, I will probably most likely ruin my marriage. I will probably most likely raise kids that can't feel happiness as well. And so there's a lot of responsibility, I think, when I'm making those decisions, and walking a cemetery helps me put them in perspective.
Well, thank you for sharing, because I think some people may be listening are like, what do I do? And maybe that's what they need to do, is to just shift their perspective by walking through a cemetery. And it may not be something that they've ever thought about, right? But when you do that, it does put things in perspective. Or if you've ever had friends who have died tragically or unexpectedly or, anything like that, it really puts things in perspective. Like, you just don't know. Every day is a gift and you just don't know. You just don't know. So you have to go for it. You really do.
Yeah. We don't know if we get more time to make a different decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I just want to say thank you for being on the show today. And if folks want to try and find you online, what's the best place for them to go?
We probably the best place to connect with us is our Instagram account. And our Instagram account is The Disruptive Dental Collective.
Okay.
And
We'll
I
make
will also send you to the website as well, but we're really active on Instagram and, through instant messaging on that platform, respond really quickly.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure we put that in the show notes. And again, thank you for being you. I'm so glad that our paths crossed.
I am too.
Yeah, and it's just watching you and your husband and what you're doing in the field of dentistry and in the world, really. I mean, especially this work now with survivors of sex trafficking. I mean, it's just so inspirational that if it wouldn't have been for you taking the leap, making that decision, these women wouldn't be getting the services that they're getting, like you said, like a luxury premium experience that it hopefully is helping them, make different decisions and turn corners in their lives into other things where they can feel good about themselves and have higher self-esteem.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy Imm as much as I did creating it. Each show is produced with you, the listener, in mind, as you look for inspiration and motivation from other brave souls as you pursue your desires. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave me a review on iTunes. I read every one. And check out my website, tracyimm.com, for more free resources. You can also join my list and sign up for my newsletter right from the homepage. Until next time, stay strong, believe in your dreams, and go do something brave.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy Imm and hope that you enjoyed the show. For more information about today's episode, as well as additional free resources to help you achieve greatness in your life, visit tracyimm.com and sign up for our mailing list. Until next time, dream big, believe in yourself, and let your brilliance shine as only you can do.